The engine made that sound again. Ethan Cole knew it. Lily knew it too. She'd stopped humming the moment it started, her small fingers tightening around the worn rabbit in her lap. "Is it going to stop?" she asked without looking up. "No, sweetheart." He kept his eyes on the road. "It's just talking. Cars don't talk, Daddy. Ours does." She considered this with the seriousness only a 6-year-old could give a broken-down Civic at 7 in the morning. Then, quietly, "What's it saying?" Ethan glanced at her in the rear-view mirror. The dark circles under his eyes. The thermos of cold coffee. The folder on the passenger seat he hadn't told anyone about yet. "It's saying we can't afford another mistake." "It's saying good morning," he told her. Lily accepted this, tucked her rabbit under her chin, and went back to humming. Ethan had been working at Vantera Aerospace Components for 11 months. His official title was Maintenance Systems Technician Level 2. His actual job, the one that no job description would ever contain, was to find the exact place where a company's safety culture had started to rot and document it before someone died. His wife's name was Claire. She had gone in for a routine cardiac procedure. She was 31 years old. 3 engineers at the facility had flagged a pressure irregularity in the ore ventilation system 6 weeks earlier. The report had been reviewed, escalated, reclassified as non-critical, and filed under a subdirectory that the safety committee never opened. Claire died on the table. Not from her heart. From air quality in a room that should have been clean. Ethan never filed a lawsuit. He sat with Lily for 2 weeks, reading her the same 3 books on rotation. And then, when she was sleeping, he sat at the kitchen table and began to understand exactly how systems failed, not as a tragedy, but as a sequence. A traceable, preventable, documented sequence that someone had chosen to bury. He became very good at reading that sequence. That morning, the folder on the passenger seat contained 41 pages. 41 pages that had taken him 11 months to compile. Vantara's primary product line, precision pressure regulators for commercial aircraft fuel systems, required a torque calibration cycle every 90 days. Except the logs showed something impossible. Batch 7 Foxtrot. 48 units. Calibration completed, signed, filed. Except the sign-off timestamp on the digital log was 19 minutes before the calibration equipment had been activated that day. Someone had logged the completion before the work had been done. He cross-referenced with the internal quality server. The original flagging report was still there, time-stamped at 6:11 that afternoon, marked pending review. The version forwarded to the CEO's approval queue showed the same batch marked reviewed and cleared. The clearance timestamp was 14 minutes after the system had automatically locked the file for that review cycle. Someone had edited the cleared status after the review window closed. 48 fuel regulators. Planes. Passengers. He had spent 3 days trying to escalate through internal channels. No one had responded. Friday was 2 days away. "Daddy," she said against his shoulder.
"Yeah."
"Are you scared today?" He stopped walking, looked at her. "Why would I be scared?" She shrugged, still drowsy. "You have your serious face." He kissed the top of her head. "I always have my serious face." "No," she said plainly. "Sometimes you have your pretending face. Today is different." He stood there for a moment in the pale morning light, holding his daughter, her rabbit dangling between them. "Everything's going to be fine," he said. He believed half of that sentence. By 11 a.m., Ethan had confirmed what he already suspected. The calibration falsification wasn't isolated to one batch. A second cross-reference showed the same timestamp irregularity in 2 previous batches. Batch 6 Delta, shipped 8 months ago. Batch 5 Charlie, shipped 14 months ago. Those units were already in service. He sat very still in the break room for a long moment, looking at the numbers. The coffee machine hummed behind him. Someone had left a birthday card on the table, half-signed, cheerful handwriting, cartoon cake. He thought about Claire, about the ventilation system report filed under a subdirectory no one opened, about the form letter from the hospital's risk management team, expressing condolences and confirming that an internal review had found no evidence of procedural failure. He thought about 48 fuel regulators on aircraft that were currently flying. He closed the terminal, picked up his folder, and made a decision. The executive floor at Vantera occupied the 31st level. Ethan had never been above the 14th. He needed someone who had access to the elevator bank that required a secondary scan. Danny Park was a facilities coordinator on the 28th floor. He was 24 years old and had twice thanked Ethan for fixing the HVAC unit outside his office without being asked. He was the kind of person who paid attention to small kindnesses. "I need a favor," Ethan said. Danny looked up from his screen, looked at the folder, looked at Ethan's face. "Is it bad?" he asked. "Only if nobody does anything about it." Danny held the eye contact for a moment longer than most people would. Then he reached into his desk drawer and slid a secondary access card across the surface, without a word. "I'll say I lost it," he said. "I lose things all the time." Ethan took the card. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Danny said, already turning back to his screen. "Just fix it." The 31st floor was built to communicate one thing: the people who worked here made decisions that other people lived with. White stone floors, glass partition walls, the particular silence of a space where ambient noise had been architecturally removed. Ethan walked with the measured confidence of someone who belonged somewhere and was simply doing what needed to be done. Victoria Lane's assistant looked up from his desk with the expression of someone encountering something that shouldn't be there but hadn't yet decided how to handle it. "I need 2 minutes with Ms. Lane," Ethan said. "It's a product safety issue. Batch 7 Foxtrot ships Friday. She needs to know what's in this folder before that happens." 14 minutes later, the conference room door opened. Victoria Lane walked out of the strategy session the way she did everything, in front, setting the pace, expecting the room to orient itself around her. She was followed by 2 department heads and the company's general counsel. She saw him immediately. She looked at him the way someone looks at a chair that has been moved 3 inches from where it should be. Not anger, not curiosity. Mild, efficient irritation. "Who are you?" she said. "Ethan Cole. Maintenance Systems, Level 2. He held out the folder. "I've been trying to reach Marcus Webb for 3 days. This needs to be in your hands today." Victoria did not take the folder. "Whatever maintenance concern you have goes through." "It's not a maintenance concern," Ethan said. His voice was level. No performance. No desperation. The voice of someone reporting a fact. Batch 7 Foxtrot has falsified calibration logs. 48 pressure regulators ship Friday. 2 previous batches with the same irregularity are already in service. I have the timestamp discrepancy documented on page 7. A brief silence. The general counsel shifted his weight almost imperceptibly. One of the department heads looked at the folder with an expression that was no longer entirely neutral. Victoria reached forward, took the folder, turned to page 1, turned to page 2, and handed it back. "Mr. Cole," she said, "calibration review falls under engineering QA. Submit it through the portal." "I submitted through the portal 11 days ago," Ethan said. It generated an automated response. "No human reviewed it. Then escalate to your department supervisor. Glenn Ferris told me this was outside the scope of my responsibilities." Then Glenn Ferris has correctly identified the chain of Ms. Lane. His voice did not rise. It simply became more precise. Page 7. The sign-off timestamp is 19 minutes before the calibration equipment was activated. That's a metadata record from your own system. I'm not asking you to take my word for anything. I'm asking you to read 7 pages before Friday. Victoria looked at him with the particular coolness of someone who has made a category decision. "Your concern has been noted," she said. "Cole Merritt will make sure it reaches the appropriate department." She turned away. "Those planes will be carrying passengers," Ethan said. She stopped walking. The corridor was very quiet. She turned back. And when she spoke, her voice had changed from cool to cold. "I don't know what you think gives a maintenance technician the authority to walk onto this floor and tell me how to run safety operations at a company I've been building for 9 years. She held out her hand. "Give me the folder." He gave it to her. She took it in both hands and dropped it. The pages spread across the white stone floor in a long, slow arc. Ethan crouched down. He gathered them in order. He stood back up. He looked at her. "By tomorrow morning," he said quietly, You'll understand what just happened in this corridor. Victoria turned to the nearest security officer. Please escort Mr. Cole out of the building and process a termination notice to HR. He handed his badge to the security officer, without ceremony. He walked to the elevator and rode it down 31 floors. The sky was white, and the air was cold, and somewhere in the city, Lily was at daycare practicing her letters. He had one more move. He sat in his car for 22 minutes before he opened the laptop. The emergency channel Robert Hale had given him was a simple encrypted upload portal with a single instruction. When you use this, make sure everything is in it. Ethan made sure. He uploaded the calibration logs, the timestamp discrepancy analysis, the cross-references for batches 5 Charlie and 6 Delta, the portal rejection confirmation from 11 days ago, the internal email thread where Marcus Webb had written, in response to a junior engineer's flagged concern, "Not this quarter, Marcus." He uploaded his account of what had happened on the 31st floor, time, names, exact words. Then he added one more document, a page he had prepared 3 days ago and kept in reserve. It was a list of 12 commercial aircraft currently in service, cross-referenced with Vantara's maintenance records, that had installed batch 5 Charlie or 6 Delta pressure regulators, with the airline operator names, with the flight route data pulled from public schedules. He attached it last. He wrote 4 sentences to Robert Hale. The shipment is batch 7 Foxtrot, Friday. 2 prior batches are already in service, details attached. I used every internal channel available before using this one. I'm not asking to be reinstated. I'm asking that no one boards a plane with parts that were never inspected. He hit send. He closed the laptop. He leaned his head back against the headrest and listened to the parking garage. His phone buzzed. A message from the daycare. Lily is ready whenever you are. She made you a drawing. He started the car. Robert Hale received Ethan's upload at 2:31 p.m. By 2:48, he had called the FAA's safety hotline and requested an emergency hold flag on the outgoing shipment, providing documentation reference numbers. By 3:15, he had forwarded the full package, including the aircraft cross-reference list, to the aviation safety desk at a national news organization. By 4:22, a federal aviation safety inspector had opened the documents on her secure terminal and was on the phone with her division supervisor. By 4:45, Vantara's legal department had received a formal FAA inquiry. Marcus Webb, reached by phone, said he would need to review the records before commenting. The general counsel walked to Victoria Lane's office and closed the door behind him. The picture that emerged from his conversations was not the picture she had been given by her own systems. The timestamp discrepancy on batch 7 Foxtrot was real. Webb had known. He had flagged it internally and been told by someone above him that the quarter could not absorb a shipment hold. She pulled up the portal submission from 11 days ago. Confirmation number 7734, MC, submitted by E. Cole, Maintenance, Level 2. Status: auto-processed, no review assigned. She sat down. Victoria Lane stood at her office window at 11 p.m. and held a glass of water she had not drunk. She had spent 3 hours trying to determine the precise shape of what was happening. The portal submission from 11 days ago. The timestamp discrepancy. The email chain. The words Marcus Webb had written. Not this quarter. She thought about what she had done with the folder. She thought about the way the pages had spread across the floor. She thought about the man who had crouched down and gathered them without breaking, who had stood back up and looked at her with the specific expression of someone who had already accounted for this outcome and was still not leaving. By tomorrow morning, you'll understand what just happened in this corridor. Standing at the window before she turned off the lights, she caught her own reflection in the glass. For a fraction of a second, she saw something she had not looked at in a while. The woman who had started at Vantara 6 years ago with nothing but a detailed understanding of operational risk and a genuine belief that she could build something better than what existed. The one who had refused to apologize for knowing more than the men twice her age in that conference room. That woman had believed in something beyond the numbers. Victoria held the thought for 3 seconds, then let it go the way she let most inconvenient things go, without ceremony, as a controlled act of will. She turned off the light. The conference room on the 31st floor looked different at 7:30 in the morning. Robert Hale sat at the far end of the table with 2 documents in front of him and the stillness of a man who has been waiting for a specific conversation for a specific amount of time. The 3 independent board members were not the kind of people whose faces were neutral. And in a chair to Hale's left, in a dark charcoal suit that fit him correctly, sat Ethan Cole. Victoria walked in at 7:28. She saw him at the precise moment she crossed the threshold, and for one fraction of a second, her step broke. She recovered immediately. She crossed her chair. No one offered a greeting. Robert Hale did not raise his voice. He didn't need to. Ms. Lane, last night you fired the only person in this company who correctly identified a safety failure and attempted, through 4 separate channels, to prevent it from reaching passengers. I think it's time you understood who he actually was. He slid one document across the table. Page 7. Batch 7 Foxtrot. Page 12 through 19. Batches 5 Charlie and 6 Delta. The FAA has already flagged Friday's shipment. The in-service review is being scheduled as we speak. Victoria attempted 3 different lines of defense over the course of these presentations. She said she had not personally ordered documentation to be altered. She said the pressure she had communicated was about timelines, not suppression of findings. She said that Flynn's escalation had been a unilateral action taken without regard for protocol. Constance Reed, who had remained silent through the entire presentation, looked up from her tablet at the last point and asked one question. She asked it without inflection. If the person standing in that corridor last night had been a 50-year-old vice president in a tailored suit, she said, would you have dropped the folder on the floor? The question sat in the room. Audrey did not answer. Ethan spoke once. Without performance, without bitterness. It looks like a safety reporting chain that doesn't pass through the executive office, he said. It looks like a direct-to-board escalation path for safety flags from any level, with legal protection for the person who raises them. And it looks like an independent investigator completing a review of the last 3 years of outgoing QA records. He paused. Any company can survive a product recall, he said. Very few survived the discovery that the culture made the recall inevitable. The announcement was precise and without cruelty. Victoria Lane was relieved of her duties as Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. Ethan Cole was appointed Interim Chief Executive Officer for a period of 90 days. The conditions he had stated, independent review, employee protection, direct safety reporting to the board, were adopted as the first 3 items of the remediation plan. Victoria stood very still through all of it. When it was finished, she looked once at Ethan Cole. He looked back. There was no triumph in his face. She walked out. Ethan stepped out of the conference room to find Lily sitting in the outer corridor, Mr. Ears in her lap, working on a crayon drawing. Lily looked up immediately.
Daddy.
Are you still fired? Ethan sat down beside her. The exhaustion of the previous 20 hours was visible in his face for exactly as long as it took him to smile.
No, sweetheart.
I just have a different office now. Is it bigger? A little. Does it have a couch? We can get one. She held up the drawing. A man and a small girl in front of a building. The man in a gray shirt. The girl holding a rabbit. Above the building, in uneven capital letters, Daddy Fix It. Ethan took the drawing. He folded it carefully and put it in his chest pocket.
I did, he said.
Ethan Cole's first full day as interim chief executive began at 6:48 a.m. with a hold order on Batch 7 Foxtrot. By 8:30, he had submitted the formal request for independent review. By 10 o'clock, he had issued an internal notice to all department heads. One sentence beneath his name. No one at Vantera should ever have to choose between doing the right thing and protecting their career. The message moved through the building at the speed of things that feel true to the people reading them. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Lily fell asleep on the sofa. Ethan laid his jacket over her and returned to his desk. He worked through the afternoon with the focused quietness of someone who had never confused authority with power. The folder, reconstructed, reprinted, complete to its 41st page, sat in the center of his desk.
He had no use for it now.
It had done its job, but he kept it where he could see it. There is a specific kind of discipline in remembering what things cost before you decide what to do with them.